there's one more thing I want to discuss in today's show. You're familiar with him, right? You know what I'm talking about? The big
JP?
Big JP, JBP. You know him, you love him, you probably hate him. Not a lot of people really like him right now. Where to begin with Jordan Peterson? Jordan Peterson is this famous like Jungian psychologist from the University of Toronto. And he was doing stuff, analyzing the archetypes of, I don't know, freaking Carl Jung, some nerd shit like that. And, was teaching at the University of Toronto, but then there was this famous Bill C-16, Bill C-16. Allegedly, it forced people to, forced university professors, I think, to recognize people's pronouns. And then Jordan Peterson got really triggered, and then he famously spoke out against it. And he was on interviews and talk shows and saying like, "Oh, they're trying to censor us. The radical left." Then he did this weird thing where he's like, tried to blame modern society and like the radical left and the postmodern neo-Marxists, they're trying to invade our institutions, and that's why they have these bills to recognize trans students, and that's that's not too good. You have to have hierarchy and structure. And he has this bit about the lobsters, because he says that humans, like lobsters, are inherently hierarchical. He's doing this grift now. He joined the Daily Wire, and he's a frequent host of the Daily Wire, and he interviews people, and he's kind of washed, like Ye. He's kind of washed, and he doesn't have that same flow, because before he was like very poignant. He would say obviously wrong things, but he would say things in such conviction, in the very like intellectual way, but not intellectual in the sense where he's just sort of like word salading. But now he's word salading. Then came this debate, Jubilee. This was actually called One Christian versus 20 Atheists. But Jubilee changed the title, and there's a reason for it, and we'll get into it. We're going to do a little debate analysis of this, because I'm a man of debate. Obviously, I am a philosophy student, all right? So I somewhat know what I'm talking about. And, also, I'm into the spirit of debate. I value it as an art form and as a way to communicate ideas. But let's get into this debate. All right, let's hear the big JP.
First claim, atheists reject God, but they don't understand what they're rejecting.
Good afternoon, Dr. Peterson.
How are you doing?
So this claim here that atheists don't know what they're rejecting. My background is in studying to become a traditional Catholic priest, daily mass, daily rosary, going on long retreats, deep into the magisterium and biblical hermeneutics, like I was thoroughly in it. And it seems like I do know what I'm missing. Is there something that I missed over study, both this issue formally and living out religion so deeply?
Well, you obviously
let's skip.
Know what I'm missing.
Let's get to this guy's
Are we
claim.
skipping to the part where
study?
he denies and also doesn't deny at the same time?
Well, that'd be spoiling it.
Both this issue formally and living out religion so deeply?
Well, you obviously feel that you missed.
So this guy was saying, essentially, he was trained to be a Catholic priest. So he has some idea of what he was rejecting. He was very devout, and then he said, "Well, no, I don't believe this anymore. I want to not be a Christian. I'm an atheist." Right? This is what he's saying. And this is his response. This is JP's response.
Something when you were practicing for the priesthood, your aim was off then. So
And
there's
so-
always the possibility that it's still off now.
What was off about my aim in the first place?
I don't know. That might take a long time to figure out. But
Then it seems kind of like this no true Scotsman type of fallacy in which you're the arbiter of people's aims and how they understand those aims to be. How is it that you can claim that people don't know something that you know about their life despite not having met them?
well, it's obviously a generic claim, just like the atheist claim that there's no God is a generic claim. In your case, it would have to be specified more, and I'm not claiming to understand what was going on in your mind, but my experience with atheists is twofold, is that they have a very reductive notion of what constitutes God, let's say, in the Judeo-Christian tradition.
That's another funny thing, is that they say, like, Judeo-Christian, but they
Just
live out
say
Islam.
Abrahamic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They leave out
That's
Islam.
what they're called. They're not called Judeo-Christian. They're called Abrahamic.
Yeah, but they completely leave out Islam because they're trying to make the because obviously it feeds into the narrative that Islam is like this barbarian religion that is
separate,
it's causing terrorism. It's separate. They actually revere Jesus more than the Jews do.
Yeah.
So
what's it? There's like this thing. It's like, I believe in Jesus, and then it's like spit. That's the Jewish side of it.
Yeah.
And they've often been hurt by someone who was religious, or by the religious enterprise, or perhaps by God himself, so to speak, and that's left them with
Why
anonymous.
is he making so
But I
many
think that
assumptions?
you have a reductive view of what atheism is.
Well, he's trying to say, like, perhaps the reason why you left religion is because of some trauma, or like, you had some bad relationships.
He's trying to
God
predict
or
it.
something. Yeah, and that's the problem. He's acting as if he's presupposing that there is God, and therefore, God or religion or these people in power in religion did something bad to you. Therefore, therefore you reject it.
I think this is gonna get good because it looks like this kid's gonna turn it around on him.
No, for sure. Yeah, let's see.
You've defined religion so broadly to include any sort of having aim in life, any sort of cultural archetypes, or having a metaphorical substrate. And atheism to you is a very specific type. Three people in the world that are these Raskolnikov type of, they want to get away with a perfect murder. It seems like you have the reductive view of what an atheist is.
Well, let's start with your claim. How do you define the God that you're rejecting? Like, what is God to you? You studied in the church, you found that unsatisfactory. How would you characterize what you rejected?
I think the average Christian believer, when they say that they're Christian and they believe, they mean some sort of God that is all-powerful, all-perfect, is somehow involved in the matters of this world, and that we look to them through wisdom and with the Logos incarnate in Christ. And it also seems like you don't believe in religion in the way that the average Christian.
So he's saying it pretty plainly that, like, Christians believe in the omniscient, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent. So all-knowing, all-powerful, all
Omnipresent.
Good. Omnipresent, right? And that I believe Jesus is the Son of God, and Jesus is Messiah, and the Trinity, and all these things, which broadly Christians believe. Of course, there are Mormons. They're Gnostic Christians, so to speak. But yeah, that's what he's saying. It's very basic. I mean, I don't think a sane person, or at least not sane, but like a person who is not delved into a lot of theology could generally agree this is what Christians believe. So let's see where he takes this.
Incarnate in Christ. And it also seems like you don't believe in religion in the way that the average Christian says that they believe in religion. And there are as many gods out there as there are believers, because everybody has mutually exclusive and different views of what God is. So it seems
Well,
like
if everybody had mutually exclusive views,
He jumps in on the second point, and says, well, if everybody has the same view of religion, then it's impossible to discuss religious matters, which is not what he means, all right? To a certain extent, everyone has a slight own interpretation because religion can be a very personal spiritual experience, right? But it's a non sequitur is what he's doing. A non sequitur is debate bro freaking logical fallacy names. It's when you just say something that has nothing to do with the topic at hand or the specific point being discussed.
views of what God is, no one can speak to each other. The mere fact of communication presumes a commonality of assumption and definition. And it's certainly not the case that I regard any archetypal manifestation whatsoever as equally religious. So that's not a real claim. Let me give you an example. Sub-narrative in the story of Moses, where Moses is rewarded with a glimpse of God. Okay, and that's one of the ways that God is characterized in the Old Testament story. Now Moses is a...
He's saying all of nothing.
He's bringing this example of the story of Moses, how Moses was, I don't even know what he's saying. It's not even relevant. I feel like I forgot the point because he's bringing up an example from the Bible. The problem with bringing an example from the Bible is that the Bible and Christianity is the very thing that's in question here, and I don't think pointing to that is productive. And you'll see this guy will smack it down pretty easily.
Hypothetically rejecting
A possible one.
I said
Yeah.
I didn't say the.
I know.
said
Dude,
Right.
he actually pisses me off.
Dude,
He
it's
just talks
5
over
minutes.
you.
He's 5 minutes and he's mad. He's talking over him.
No,
And
dude, he actually pisses me off because he talks over people and then he gets mad when the other person talks over him.
or when the other person is trying to say anything.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, so the implication of that story is that
What I don't
the
get
divine
is these people
fundamentally
raising the
unknowable.
flags.
It's a pinnacle experience.
Like, it's always the people raising the flags, and then they just get replaced with a worse person. Like,
I think
the debate
people
slowly
want to-
declines.
Well, number one, Jubilee is an evil institution. Let's be real. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not
pretty
good
much.
faith, and they just want to make money off of radical politics and current political issues in general, right? The whole premise behind Surrounded is so bad. It's really bad for genuine dialogue, which obviously they don't care about, right? It's incentivizing people to be as divisive as trying to say as many things at the same time, and then also trying to kick people off for. So you can butt in, It's very competitive for when there's no need for competition, even among the people who are trying to respond to Jordan Peterson, and this particularly in this video, right?
People in their finitude have to be shielded from a comprehensive vision of.
I see. Okay,
He's
I somewhat
saying,
understand.
look, just read that what's on the closed captions is literally saying everything to say nothing.
He's trying to say something, and this is what I think he's trying to say. The reality of God is inherently not incomprehensible, but very difficult to comprehend for humans because humans are finite while God's infinite. So you can't fully reject God because you don't quite understand the infinite. Which, again, the problem with this argument, though, is assuming that there is such a being like God who is infinite, right? It's like you're making a bunch of assumptions, right? Like, I don't want to get all philosophy brain on y'all, but, in metaphysics, like, you're assuming that if such a God created the world, that the world itself is not infinite, right? So famously, I don't know if you know, there's a guy called Spinoza, and he said that reality itself is what we could call God because reality is actually infinite, and everything in existence is like one thing, essentially. It's all one substance, and we're merely just seeing like apparitions of it, or like our minds playing tricks on us, essentially, right? But we're really all one. Which, could that be considered God? I don't know. Is time linear? Like, this is assuming like space and time are linear things. You know what I mean? Like, he's making so many assumptions, saying like, "Oh yes, and you're rejecting God, even though God by his very nature is infinite," which again assumes freaking God. And I don't even know if he even believes in God, and we'll see later, bro. That I don't think he's quite the Christian as people say.
The basis of reality. Well, that's not the God that's defined in that manner, right? It's not a simple personification. It's not a simple old man in the sky. It's something that, in its essence, is unknowable and overwhelming, and that isn't in my experience, the God that's defined by atheists who are attempting to undermine the story. I mean, it's the same claim, for example, that you're a finite creature and that you face something that in the final analysis is unknowable, and that you have to establish a relationship with it regardless of your inability to perceive or even withstand perceiving the whole. Okay, is there a problem with that?
I mean, the problem is that when we look at, famously, when you've been asked, do you believe in God? The question becomes, what do we mean by God? And in the Bible, it's not even clear the biblical authors know what God is, because Yahweh has historically emerged from an early storm god, a deity that doesn't exhaust the category of deity, and that has changed over the Old Testament. Does God have physicality? Does God not have physicality? It seems like, yes, if you define religion to mean anybody that has an aim, anybody that looks at the unknown, anybody who wants to go from chaos to order is inherently religious, then yes. But also in the same way, I could define atheist as somebody who doesn't dogmatically believe in a religion, or somebody who doesn't regularly attend religious services or belong to a denomination. To help especially the audience kind of like boil this down, there was a lot of words there. That the central claim is that we exist somewhere between the finite and the infinite.
A central claim.
A central claim is that we exist somewhere between
Jesus Christ. I hate this guy, bro. Oh
between the finite and the infinite.
No, I said that we were finite and we had to establish a relationship with the infinite.
Yeah, then in that case, then we're all
reference?
religious. But then I can do the same thing and define one particular element of atheism. It seems like we both have a reductive view of what the other side looks like, to the point where a conversation seems incoherent, and not just incoherent, but not in the way that the average Christian understands Christianity to be.
Do you have a
Okay,
problem
let's pause there. Sorry, you've been voted out by
Awesome.
the majority.
Tell me everything that you know about the Polynesian deity Lono, L-O-N-O.
I don't know anything about the Polynesian deity Lono.
So you're rejecting something without knowledge of what you're rejecting.
I'm not rejecting it. No
you
more
be-
than I'm
Do
rejecting
you believe?
I think it's a little bit of a straw man. Now, granted, the way in which Jordan Peterson presents his claim is vague, ambiguous, and very word salady. It's a little bit of a straw man because what Jordan Peterson is saying is that atheists allegedly have a reductive notion of God, is because God is inherently infinite, and if they understood that in order to understand reality you have to have like an infinite grounding or something like that, it's a straw man. You're just saying like, oh, because you don't know something about another deity, therefore you reject it. That's not really what Peterson is saying. Now, he did a very bad job of presenting that. I'm going to skip this segment because it really is just sort of like, just sort of that, where it's just built on a straw man. Not very good. I mean, it's not very freaking productive. All right, next guy.
Aha! Hi, nice to meet you.
How are you doing?
Good, how
What's
are you?
your name?
I'm Greg. Nice to meet you.
Greg.
Okay, so I feel like you're getting at this idea of polysemy, where we have multiple
All right, let's see this.
Philosophy.
This makes sense. This makes total. He's hunched over, bro. He has no posture. It's bad for his neck. All right, it's making him angry. It's affecting his mental state. All right.
I think
And over here we got the Chad posture. All right, he's very direct. He knows what he's saying, and he's very calm and very straight to the point. He's not making a bunch of like random ass points. All right, he's not gish galloping. He's not doing word salad. He's just destroying
him with facts and logic.
He's mogging him is what he's doing. One big mog.
getting at this idea of polysemy,
Oh,
where
no.
we have
He has weak
multiple
posture.
related meanings for a
isn't gonna
word,
be
right?
good.
Like, for example, a famous painting can be emotionally moving in that it changes my emotional state. And when I was on the highway coming here to the studio, I was physically moving. I was changing my position. If I said, I believe the Mona Lisa is very moving, and you said, you don't really understand what you're saying, it's nailed to the wall.
Is this guy
I would
getting
say
into
that you're the one
hyperbole?
who doesn't understand what I'm saying, not the other way around. And the way that relates to this is there are many concepts of God, and I'll admit, I find a lot of what you say about that interesting. I'm familiar with it. The idea of this kind of Jungian hierarchical thing, or as a metaphor or a symbol, or the kind of, atheist, materialist, literalist idea of agentic, omnipotent, omniscient being that intervenes in reality, right? So when I'm saying that I reject the concept of God, I'm aware of these other definitions of God, but I think that when we use words, we tend to only imply one meaning at a time. So the same way that I would say the Mona Lisa is moving emotionally, but I would not say it's moving physically. I would say I reject the concept of God in this very literal way.
That's a really good deconstruction of Peterson's position, because he's saying, like, because Peterson has been very vague of what he meant by God. He's like, well, it's the basis of all reality, and it's also the infinite, and you can't reject that because you must be rejecting reality itself, which is some weak beta shit. I don't even know what he's fucking talking about, bro. And he's that number one. All right, that's what he's saying, right? He's saying, like, you're getting at this thing. He's using the term polysemy, which I don't know what that really means. I think it means multiple meanings or multiple names or multiple meanings assigned to a name. That could be perhaps what Peterson's doing, but he gave a good example with the Mona Lisa, where it's like you say it's moving in the metaphorical way, like it's moving my soul, but it's not literally moving. Let's just say, my like how I'm moving this. That's a very good clarification of the position. A good example as well, and he is making a very Wittgensteinian argument, philosophy of language. Look him up, and basically. The problem with Jordan Peterson is right now he's confusing language, almost deliberately so.
It's interesting. The guy who's debating Peterson right now, I don't know if there's a real strategy he like deliberately came into it with the speaking on the meaning of words, because if I'm not mistaken, that was what a lot of Jordan Peterson's earlier college lectures were on, is like the meaning of words.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, because he wrote that book, Maps of Meaning, right, which has to do with symbolism and metaphors and whatnot. And then also, like, I think he was ragging on, like, college kids. It's really funny, because remember the whole Bill C-16 thing? He got so triggered because the damn SJW libtards on the college campuses were confusing language around pronouns and shit, which is very ironic, you know what I mean? Because, like,
it's also kind of difficult to do. Yeah,
where, like, he's claiming these people are confusing definitions when he is doing the same thing. Now, I'm not sure if he's doing it deliberately so, or if he's, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's deliberate or if he's just that washed, This guy who's currently on right now, he's saying, I think he's doing a very good. So far, so good. Calling Jordan Peterson out for what he's doing, which is confusing definitions.
But I would not say
it's
it's
contextualize what Jordan's about to do.
I would say I reject the concept of God in this very literal way. But
what literal way?
So it's funny because earlier in discussion, this guy is like, I reject the concept of God in the sense that there is an all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful, all-present, God that intervenes in reality. I think Jordan Peterson can piece 2 and 2 together and say, yes, that is a literal way he's talking about. That's the literal sense of God.
God in this very literal way. But
what literal way?
The way that God is this omniscient, omnipotent, agentic,
he's doing it again, right?
That sent his son down and has, caused miracles and all these things like that. The idea of God is
Do you think that there's an underlying unity of things?
What? What? What?
Is he gonna say something like God has to exist because there's a unity?
I mean, there's a philosophical problem called the problem of the one and the many, where how can there, like, how can we say things are unified in one sense, but then like they're also different, which is a valid, it's a valid way to go about this. You know what I mean? But like, what is that? What? I guess in some sense there's an underlying unity, but he's talking about a very specific sense of God. I don't think I'm very surprised Jordan is not catching on.
Here's another question for you. What do you think guides you in your determination of whether or not what you're saying to me is true?
Can we go back? Can we stay on what we were talking about?
We are.
Okay.
You're just uncomfortable with the question.
No, I feel like you're just kind of throwing different spaghetti at the wall.
That's actually a really good point. The guy said you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, which it actually does seem like he's doing just that. He's just saying, is there an underlying unity to things, and is and atheists are rejected? I don't know.
I mean, he hasn't really brought anything to like prove that there is inherently a unity to things anyway. He just says it.
He's just
like, you just have to believe it.
He's just presupposing. He's asking him, is there an underlying unity to things? And I'm like, I guess, I
don't know what that means.
This kind of gets bad. This gets pretty bad, actually.
I'm not.
Okay.
We'll see we'll see where he takes this.
What is it that you think guides you when you're talking to me to help you determine whether what you say is true?
Logic, memory, reasoning, sensory information.
How do you distinguish that from being governed by something that's false?
An interesting question.
How do you know the difference when you speak between what's true and what's false? So you could imagine.
Right? I can infer.
From what principles?
So, and what are you getting at?
I'm getting at the fact that your conscience guides you. Is that reasonable?
Dude, he's so
conscious is
fucking mad.
defined by
He's super mad. Oh my god, dude! You can tell like his eyebrows are like, his forehead's expanding. Let's watch more what he says about what fucking conscience
of
right and
wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Where does that come from?
I would say that comes from an evolved capacity to empathize and a recognition of the benefits of engaging with and nurturing that capacity. And then that empathy is constrained and guided by reason, right? Like, for example, I am driving down the highway. There's a kitten in the road. I'm going to empathetically feel, oh my God, I want to save the kitten. But then reasonably, like, I'm going to get hit by a car, right? So that's sort of the process through which I make ethical decisions.
Okay,
is
how do
empathy
you
constrained by reason?
Do you think that people can differ in their response to something empathically?
Yeah.
Is there a mediating principle that can tell you one person who's empathic and another person who's empathic that disagree, who's correct?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we'd have to, talk it out, right? Mm-hmm. We do that in real life all the time when we have, whether that's a discussion with a friend about the right thing to do in a situation, whether that's a policy discussion about law, right? That's where we can converse with each other, think about things, explain our perspectives, and then kind of reach a conclusion, right? That I think that we do that all the time.
So Elijah, the prophet Elijah, defined God in...
Okay. I feel like the mistake in debating any of these grifters is to, like, ask them the questions and, like, be the student or something like that. Let them talk on and on and on and on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you actually have to you have to really expose what they really are in grifters. You can't like have this faux like sense of respectability because they not full. Yeah. You can't just be like fuck you, bro. You can't do that. But like you can't like take everything they say at face value. And you have to call out when they're doing specific things to derail the conversation or to or to spread propaganda or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like you have to hold them to their feet on that. Yeah.
Or go full on Antifa on their ass and kill them. That's another. Yeah. I'm not saying I agree with that option. It's just another option.
No, we're not saying we condone that, but that
we
is
don't condone
certainly a option. That is certainly an option.
We are definitely not political radicals to the audience watching.
No, we're not. We're actually a family. We're actually a family-friendly Christian podcast. Famously, Cheese Talk, Dan Silverman show. We're Christian, founded on Judeo-Christian values, and that's what we strive towards.
That's why you'll never find one of their streams on Sunday.
That is correct. You'll never find it on Sunday because we're always attending church. And yes, your denomination. And as far as our politics, well, you want to know what I am? I agree with you. That's right. You, the viewer at home, sitting on your laptop, maybe laying on your bed on your phone, maybe getting off the porn,
or to this video, whatever tickles your fancy.
Exactly, whatever tickles your fancy. I agree with you.
Yeah.
The Old Testament as the voice of conscience within.
Okay.
That's a definition.
So you're saying by that definition of God, I see. This is kind of goes back to what I'm saying initially.
I'm not defining it. Elijah defined it.
So as Elijah defines God,
it's defined that way in Jonah too.
Okay, so as
Cardinal Newman
Okay,
also
pause.
defined it that way.
The YouTuber guy Matan.
Why
Why did it look like he's in the background?
Oh shit!
Name 5 gods, or name 10 gods.
Name 5 definitions of God. Well, let me see. Bro.
Dude, it's him.
Bro.
Our goat.
Bro, I don't even know what to say.
Name 10 gods.
Name 10 gods. Dude, I wish Matan would have with Jordan Peterson on his pod.
Oh my
He's
god.
so fucking
Get him
fire.
to storm out like all the other crazy people.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sure you know many people who've defined it that way. And it's impressive. You're a very knowledgeable person.
I'm not trying to be impressive. I'm just pointing out to you how God is defined in the Old Testament.
All right. So to respond to that,
so
I do
mad.
think there are lots of interesting ways to
Oh
define
my god.
And that goes back to my
Then,
kind of
then
opening
how do
statement.
we specify what we're arguing
He's
about?
got the killing
We use
intent.
context clues, or we again, it goes back to my example of the
I'm
Mona Lisa.
defining God as conscience.
Okay, so that's interesting, but then you're kind of expanding the meaning.
Wait, is he literally saying, well, everyone has a conscience, so therefore everyone believes in God? Is he literally saying that?
Yep. Okay, wait. Okay, you haven't heard of that rationale?
Well, I've heard it, but that's like low-level apologetics, dudes. You know what I mean?
I'm not. That's how it's defined in the Old Testament.
Okay,
in
so-
Elijah and in Jonah.
Sure. So whoever,
It's not whoever.
Okay.
Elijah is one of the major
all right.
Old Testament.
Bro, he's like boomering him. He's like, well, Sonny, it's actually how it's defined in the Old Testament. It's not some guy. You have to make sure. Because like what boomers like to do is they like to go on tirades, right? They like to keep on chugging at you, saying like, well, you need to know better, Sonny. And it's like, and they don't actually get to your point. They just nitpick you. And that's what he's doing. He's just nitpicking him.
They bring it to a point, because there's the thing, right? Very good message, respect your elders. But they bring it to a certain point. They bring it to that breaking point way too quickly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right.
Prophets.
All right.
He's equal in stature to Moses.
Okay.
So it's not arbitrary.
All right.
You accept conscience as a guide, and conscience is one of the defining characteristics of God in the Old Testament.
I think you're being intellectually disingenuous.
In what way?
Because again,
I asked you if you believe that conscience guided
you
you.
just asked me a question and then you stopped me from answering it. In this setting, you understand the way I am using the term God and belief.
Not
and
in the least. I don't understand how you're
He's just like obfuscating, obviously. Saying, well, of course I don't.
using it in the least. That's why I'm trying to define it. My definition of God as conscience is a lot more precise and oriented than your definition of the God that you hypothetically disbelieve in.
It's irrelevant to the fault lines of this debate.
How is it irrelevant?
Because in common parlance, when we're talking about atheists, God, belief, not belief,
I
we're
don't
not
care
talking
about common parlance. I'm trying to get to something fundamental.
I think your point is irrelevant to the way that people tend to use these words. Your point that there are these polysemous
I didn't make
ideas
that
of God.
point. You did.
I
made a specific point that God was associated with conscience.
I just feel like you kind of retreat into this semantic fog.
I'm not retreating at
Oh, shit. You got him.
Ooh.
semantic fog. Right. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because earlier he says, well, God is the infinite that grounds reality. And then he's also saying, well, God is conscience. My definition of God is conscience, right?
Slight.
So it seems like he's shifting the definition as each person is going.
I'm advancing, sir. You are retreating.
All right. Oh,
I'm the one who's advancing, not you. Oh, my God.
it was very nice to meet you. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. It's very brave of you to do this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if it's brave to fucking deal with this bullshit, bro. Like, what do you mean? Should we find the guy? Yeah, let's find the guy.
Yeah.
Our boy, our white boy in residence, Parker.
Yep.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I guess since you said morality and purpose cannot be found in science, it would just depend on like what you're referencing. If you're saying a description of your psychological preferences would be considered within science, sure. But I don't think that.
Yeah, I forgot he's annoying. I forgot he's trying to like be like Destiny and Ben Shapiro, and thinking that it works. You know?
Yeah.
I think Destiny and Ben Shapiro could pull it off. Because number one, Ben Shapiro can like act like he's saying something. He has clout and he has aura in a sense. Not really anymore because no one really likes him. But Destiny has a lot to say. And he has a lot of very nuanced things to say, and for the most part, he makes like good points, good arguments.
Say that it comes from science in order to be like an atheist. As an agnostic atheist, I don't know if God exists, and I don't believe that a God exists. And the only ones that I would really reject would be like the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good, perfect notion of God that plenty of Christians like prescribe themselves. So I guess
how is that relevant to this claim?
Yep.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he is claiming that morality can't come from science, right?
Dude, he's so pressed.
But dude, look at his eyebrow.
Dude, you're not even that mad. Like he's
not.
literally like, look at that dude. His brow is so furrowed.
It's so low.
I know.
Jeez, man.
you're basing a position of morality and purpose in some like notion of God that isn't the same type of notion of God that typical Christians would prescribe. Your notion of God is
what typical Christians?
Yeah, typically when I talk to Christians, all knowing.
How about Cardinal Newman,
right,
who defined God as conscience? He's a major influence on all of Catholic social theory. How about that Christian?
Sure. So do you believe in the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good notion of God?
What do you mean by believe?
Oh my God.
Oh man, he said the thing. He said the line.
He said the thing.
Bro, absolute cinema. Absolute cinema, bro. Oh, he said the line, man. Oh man.
Do you think it to be true?
That's the circular definition. What do you mean?
That's not circular, though. Is it?
No. Because there are different senses of what you mean by... To grant Jordan Peterson some slack, there can be certain senses by which you mean by believe, right? Believe in the sense like that the idea of God exists in the sense an idea alone, that you believe that God exists, or like maybe like God as like this more like archetype, in a Jungian sense, right?
Right, but it's not a different definition. Like it seems like he's asking the definition of believe. You know, like I feel like what you're saying is contextual.
And then so Parker says, "Do you believe it to be true?" So if we want to get all like analytical philosophy, believe it to be true means that you have a truth claim, and it's either true or false. Okay, It either exists in the world, in reality, apart from our mind, or it does not.
Well, there's a third option that you're a solipsist, and so it has to exist in your mind.
Right. Duh. No, but that aside, I mean, it's very simple.
How is that circular?
Believe.
How is that circular?
because you added no content to the answer by substituting the word true.
That's not what
believe.
circular means,
I
right?
said you think it to be true.
All right. So if
It's not circular. It's
Yeah,
not.
that's not circular.
It's not circular, bro.
you believe something, you stake your life on it.
What do you mean by that?
You live for it, and you die for it.
Dude,
He's aura
what?
farming.
I
He's aura
genuinely
farming.
okay.
He's aura farming.
I feel like he knew who the guy he was debating was, and so he decided to go on this define that tangent.
You think?
Like he probably knew he couldn't win it.
He knew a white boy friend of the show, Parker.
I feel like he did, because remember, this guy has like a big social media following. I feel like he knew that. And it's like a stalling
maybe,
tactic.
I don't know. I assume he lives in the Stone Age, though. I assume he's very boomer pilled. You know what I mean? So I assume
He gets the physical paper.
Yeah. I'm not sure he's even really that online, I'll be honest.
That's what I mean by that. It isn't something that you say. It isn't something that's associated with logical consistency. It's not declarative. It's not propositional. It's not a figment of your imagination. It's the presupposition of your attention and your action. And you're either...
What does that mean? Let's be real. What do you think that meant? Bro, that's like some shit you'd see in like fucking like Capital Volume 1, bro. It's like some shit
Not
you'd
even,
see
dude.
in-
Karl Marx isn't. Not even, dude. Karl Marx isn't fucking stupid.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't read it. That's like some shit you see in Martin
I thought you
Heidegger.
said you have I thought you said you have read like an abridged version of it.
I did, an abridged version of it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think he's saying that it's very deep and fundamental, more so than believing it as a logical proposition, because you have to, number one, not just believe in God, but like serve God and do all these other things, to worship God. That's the goal of human life, apparently, right?
fragmented, in which case you worship multiple gods, or there's some unity at the bottom of it that makes you an unstoppable force.
Okay, so you're saying that you don't believe something if you wouldn't die for it?
Not really, no.
Okay. So then,
How would you define belief? Something you say?
Can I explain? Like, I could believe it is the case that this pen exists, but if someone like threatened my life, right, I would lie in order to be able to save my life, right? Like, I think you would do that too. You wouldn't lie to save your
Don't
life?
be so sure.
You wouldn't lie to save your life?
Oh my God. So this is what we call in the industry deontological brain rot, and you'll see what it is.
How much do you know about me? I didn't lie to save my career. I didn't lie to save my clinical practice.
Would you lie to like save your children, your mom, your dad?
I don't think lying would save them.
Oh my God.
So the idea of deontology,
Dude,
deontology is that there are certain actions that you don't do. And there are certain actions that are like always wrong or always right. I think in this case, be always wrong. So like lying, he's pulling a Kant right now, the categorical imperative,
Dude.
without really fully understanding it. Obviously,
I think it's really fun. Something I was just thinking of is like what he just did there. Like I'm imagining it as like you're in the trolley problem, right?
yeah.
It's like flip the lever and kill 4 or kill 1 person, or leave it and kill 4. And he's just like, well, I would never be in a situation like that.
What
I would
do
just
you
pull the
mean?
brakes.
What do you mean by lever?
No, but like,
what do you mean by
no-
trolley?
but like he'd just be like, I'm gonna pull the brakes.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not the question, motherfucker. Try again.
Right. I'm gonna do anything in my power to not get into the situation, which he's dodging the question, obviously, because he's grilling him. Our favorite white boy friend of the show is grilling him. He's owning him, epic style, and we know this.
That lying could save someone.
Yeah, and if you're steeped in sin, you're likely to live in circumstances like that.
What, bro? That's hilarious. All right, let's. I want to get through this.
Dances like that.
I'll give you an example. If you're like in like Nazi Germany, and it is the case that there's like Jewish people in your attic, and you're trying to protect them,
example.
would you lie to like the Nazis? If
I
they're
would have
asking?
done everything I bloody well could, so I wouldn't be in that situation
you
to begin
lie?
with. It's a hypothetical, and it's
You
not
can't answer
answerable.
hypotheticals.
No, I can't answer a hypothetical like
What?
that because
Did
it's
you eat
far.
today?
Oh my god. He's pathetic.
I think this is probably the easiest hypothetical to ever come up with and answer, because this is an event that historically took place.
I think, here's the thing. I think he knows exactly what's going to happen. I think he knows exactly what it's going to lead into, and so he doesn't want to let it go that direction.
Well, again, this is another derail. I think this might be on Parker's end, where Parker's trying to say, like, the idea of belief or believing something to be true is something where you wouldn't lie about it, right? I think. And then they went to this side conversation, or this side, like, point about whether in certain places, certain times you can lie and other times you do, but fundamentally you believe in a certain thing, even though you may not express it fully all the time. I think that's what he's trying to say. I'll be honest. I don't know.
Look,
Did you
don't
eat
play
today?
games.
I'm not playing a game. I'm just
Yes,
asking if you
you
ate
are.
it.
If you present me with an intractable moral choice that's stripped of context and you back me into a corner, you're...
That's like the entirety.
Who
of the
calls it
field.
an
That's like the
why do you
entire
call it-
field of ethics, bro. That's what. That's
Why
the
did he
entire.
call it? Why did he call it an interactable moral dilemma or something like that? Like, I feel like a moral dilemma is like inherently interactable.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like you can't. You might be just misusing words. I'll be honest. Like with definitions, he's
He's just-
misusing.
What's the thing from earlier? The spaghetti at the wall or something? That's what he's doing
Yeah,
with the words.
No, for sure, for
It's
sure.
like, you know what? I'm gonna add interactable on the front. Maybe it'll make sense.
For sure, man.
playing game. I just told you
Hypothetical.
I would do everything that I could to make sure that I'm never in that situation. By the time you've got there, you've made so many mistakes that there's nothing you can do that isn't a sin.
Being born in Nazi Germany
This guy is so stupid.
in trying to protect people that you care about. Like there could be a Jewish friend that you have, and you want to protect them.
I think you should
have
just
them in
give
your
up on
attic.
that line of questioning.
Give up on just like trying to clarify your position? Because you
I
don't
did
like. Are you like
clarify it.
uncomfortable with me asking this question? It's just a basic hypothetical. Like I could ask you.
It's just a
did you-
basic
yeah, yeah.
hypothetical
Like,
where you're,
like
you
if you-
put Jews' lives at stake in Nazi Germany. That's just a basic hypothetical.
Obviously, you would lie in that scenario to save their life, but you're like not trying to answer
What's-
this question.
it's-
Like, so you're
Why are
anti-fascist?
you asking that?
I was just asking, just clarifying. But like, okay, again, you're not answering this hypothetical because you know it shows that you clearly would lie to save
I'm
someone's life.
answering it in
Obviously,
a
that's
manner
not
you
what truth
don't
is.
find acceptable.
Obviously, 'cause I care about
you're-
truth.
I wouldn't be in that scenario.
Obviously, right? Logically, because that's
No.
already happened. Like that's in the past. You don't have a time travel device. We're bringing this logical hypothetical up to show you that in some circumstances that do happen within the real world, you would lie to save people's lives. So your definition of truth isn't actually how we're typically using it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to muddy the waters when I ask you, like, do you believe this? Do you think this to be true? So you don't actually have to answer the questions. And plenty of Christians don't like that because they clearly see that you don't really like want to be associated with
I can
Christianity. with that
imagine
respect.
that I was in a situation where the best I could do as a consequence of my
I mean, this is how you deal with them. You call them out and say, like, you're muddying the waters. You have a semantic fog, and you're obscuring the definitions of what we're using in order to make some really esoteric point that only works if you do that. You know what I mean? All right, we got to skip to my boy. All right, I think we'll end this segment here. All right, with this beautiful debate performance, uninterrupted.
Hey, Dr. Peterson.
How you doing?
Danny, nice to meet you.
What's your name?
Danny?
Danny.
You're saying atheists worship things or people or places, whatever. Can you be very clear about your definition of worship again?
Attend to, prioritize, and sacrifice for.
Okay, that's it.
Oh, for context, sorry, I said I was gonna not interrupt it, but the prompt is, this new prompt says, everybody worships something even though they might not know it. So he's trying to say that, like, oh, you don't worship God, but you're actually worshiping something else, and you're replacing God with that, and that's like you have a hierarchy, and it's like he's playing word games with you. He's playing semantics games, word games, and whatnot. Very juvenile, especially for Dr. Peterson.
That's your understanding of worship.
Well, I could flesh it out, but that'll do for the time we have.
Okay. Do Catholics attend to Mary?
Well, yes.
Okay. So do they fit that description of worship?
Yes.
So you would say Catholics and other people that revere Mary, like the Eastern Orthodox tradition, worship Mary.
Well, they might not put her in the highest
But
place.
you would put it that way.
No.
You just said it. Now you're taking it back.
There's
now?
still a hierarchy.
Okay, there's a hierarchy, but within the
There's something at the top.
All right, you can worship things
Mary
below.
is quite a ways up the hierarchy, but not at the top.
Let's go over your definition of worship again. What's your definition of worship?
Attend to.
Attend to.
Prioritize.
Do
And
Catholics
sacrifice for.
What do Catholics attend to? Do they prioritize Mary over all other human beings?
No, I didn't say overall, did I? I didn't add that to my definition.
You understand?
I said there was a hierarchy as well.
You attend to
So you can attend to something trivially, or you can attend to it deeply.
Okay, now you're adding stuff to the definition. But your original definition...
I added the hierarchy part at the beginning.
Are you
just
familiar?
didn't understand it.
Are you familiar with the Immaculate Conception?
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure.
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
Somewhat.
Okay, you're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are very
how do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a
'cause I
Christian
won't
or you're
talk
not.
to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression I
private.
was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing. Right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Holy
Baller.
shit. So we saw in this whole thing, when they call him out, he shuts down the conversation, and he just berates them and treats them as lesser, right? He talks down to them essentially. And he only entertains those who are playing with his semantic fog, to his word games, to his way of muddying the waters. So he doesn't actually, so there's actually no response, because when you play with his logic, yeah, it's going to seem correct because his logic is flawed, right? And if you play along with it, then it follows. But when you call it out for what it is, then he seems like he's the one who's losing. We kept seeing this time and time again, and it's just I want to say that's it. That's the Jordan Peterson debate. This Jubilee debate, I do have to say, it's better than most other Jubilee debates because people who are on are not stupid. They're really smart. They know what they're talking about to a certain extent, but they can make really good fleshed out arguments, and they can defend them, right? And they can respond adequately. But I think this guy here was actually really ticked off because originally it was one Christian versus 20 atheists, and then like 4 hours later, or however long it took, the Jubilee changed it to Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists. Because of that, and people, I think if we check the comments here, they're actually, let's see if that one's up. Way Jubilee changed the title from one Christian versus 20 atheists.
Okay,
yeah.
look at all of the other videos from Jubilee. It's always the featuring whoever. It's never
Right, and it used to have that where it said one Christian featuring Jordan Peterson, right?
Well, no, I mean just like look at the trend in all of the other titles.
Oh, right.
For like
right.
surrounding. It's one LGBTQ plus activist versus 25 conservatives featuring
featuring.
It's always the
so-and-so.
featuring for Surrounded, except for that video. So they
Well, 'cause
definitely
changed it. So the first part of the title said Jordan Peterson, right?
Yep.
But that's the
Exactly.
point, man. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for today's show.